Good afternoon, everyone. My name is Mahmoud and I'm the Director of Investment and Ecosystem Development at DFDF. It's an absolute pleasure and honor to be here, sat alongside our ecosystem. Today we have investors, we have incredible startups and founders, we have government officials and forward-thinking corporates. So thank you everyone for coming and making it. I want to start off with a quote that I came across in Emirate's Towers that resonated with me and it stuck with me and actually helped us derive our strategy at DFDF, and we live by every day. The quote goes like this, and it's Sheikh Muhammad's quote: "The future belongs to those who can imagine it, design it, and execute it. It's something you don't wait for. It's rather something you create." As someone who lived in Dubai for the past 2 decades, I've seen Dubai do this firsthand, where they have always imagined what the future could be and delivered upon it. So I'm grateful to be a part of this ecosystem. At DFDF, and you've heard in a bunch of the panels that we've had, we've aligned ourselves with D33's economic agenda, and Dubai wants to double its GDP by 2033. For startups and innovations is at the heart of that strategy, and we're sat here today trying to think about not only, for us to get to that goal, we need to build the infrastructure and rails. Today we're not, like Nader said and like Jack said, we're not your typical investors where we put money and we just let the money go to work. We're actually thinking about building the rails and the infrastructures to systematically create massive outcomes across specific sectors. Today, we're going to focus on a couple of sectors that are core for Dubai's vision and strategy. And I'd love to welcome my panelists. I'd love for them to introduce themselves as individuals and the companies that they represent. Go ahead.
Then after you, please. Health before real estate. So we start.
Put it on a wall somewhere. Hi, everybody. Good morning still, and thank you for having me here today. I'm Scott Rutherford. I thoroughly enjoyed the panel sessions this morning as well, so hopefully ours can keep that momentum going. My background, just for the purposes of this audience, I guess, has been working in the UK and in Ireland, mainly within the sort of academic sector, I guess, on the fringes of the academic sector, both in terms of economic policy development, in terms of ecosystem building around R&D and innovation, and also in the commercialization side of university IP, university spin-out ventures as well. I work for a company, an organization rather, called Dubai Health here. I'm one of those people who came here for 2 years. I'm already in year 3. And my role here is to work as part of the C-suite, I guess, on advising on our research and innovation and investments into Dubai Health. So in short terms, Dubai Health is an academic healthcare system. So if you think of Dubai, with about half of the healthcare system covered through the private sector, and then the other half is covered through the sort of publicly subsidized sector or side of things. So that is Dubai Health, that publicly or government subsidized part of healthcare. So we have hospitals, we have primary care centers, with about 11,500 employees in total, but also linked into that sort of healthcare delivery system is also a university, a medical school, which is doing research and innovation and educational things, as well as a philanthropic arm as well. So we think of ourselves as bringing together, as part of that academic healthcare system, both sort of care, education, discovery science, and then our philanthropy or our kind of giving arm. And we believe bringing that all together, is a pretty compelling proposition in terms of both the care that our patients get, but also in how we work with the private sector and other parts of the public sector as well. So that's my short version of who I am and what we do at Dubai Health.
So thank you, Scott, for that. And I think I was shocked, to be honest, when I learned about Dubai Health and just the sheer size of Dubai Health. Initially, when I used to think about health, it was DHA. So I think creating that distinction for the audience, for them to understand the difference between Dubai Health and Dubai Health Authority, I think is quite important. And then, would love to hear your thoughts on that.
Yeah, I mean, that's probably an important distinction. So the creation of Dubai Health sort of came at the tail end of the COVID period, I guess, when the view was to separate the sort of care delivery, that the sort of clinical services side of DHA away from its regulatory responsibilities. So DHA is very much a sort of regulator, a strategy, policy setting, a part of the healthcare system in Dubai. Dubai Health is about the delivery of care to our patients and how, as I said earlier, how we can get the benefits of how we educate the workforce, how we do research and development, how we link in with that clinical system, and ideally break down some of those barriers that might exist if you keep those organisations separate. So somebody mentioned earlier, the NHS system in the UK, where I, had kind of interfaced with previously, and it's an incredible setup in the UK, of course, but there are different kind of leadership and governance lines, and maybe one of the sort of slightly different things here is that all of that care, that education, that discovery, that philanthropy, it's one executive, it's one board. So you don't necessarily, and part of the reason I'm here really is to see if we can be far more efficient and effective in how we deal with external partnerships and how we coordinate our activities without having to maybe navigate, different reporting lines, different governance structures, different funding and budgetary controls. Whereas here, it's as I said, it's a single governance, single board, single executive team that run that entire entity.
That's amazing. You said 11,000 employees.
Just over, yeah.
And how many patients do you guys look at a year?
I think in terms of patient interactions, often there's different sort of ways of kind of measuring these things, but about 4 million or so sort of patient interactions each year. So people coming to see our GPs, our clinicians, our specialty services, having lab tests, etc. All those sorts of things have come through Dubai Health. So it's a big workforce. It serves a lot of population here in Dubai and in other Emirates. And maybe interestingly as well, we have one single electronic healthcare record system right from primary through to secondary care, etc. So while that's still in its kind of infancy in terms of how that's utilized and used, we've got really ambitious plans to kind of optimize and use that data both for research and also how we work with the kind of external partners as well.
Amazing. Thank you for that, Scott. Doctor, love to hear about you and DLD.
Well, thank you so much, Mahmoud. Thank you, everyone, for coming. I don't know if this is done by coincidence, but it's great that we're linking health and real estate, because this is a very important topic. We've been always looking at how do we make Dubai healthier in terms of healthy buildings, healthy environment, the focus on our strategy, D33, you mentioned the economic agenda, but also the social agenda. But what's even more important is the Urban Plan 2040, which focuses on how to make Dubai the best city on earth for people to live, work, and entertain. So the health agenda is deeply rooted in that. So this is something we've been always looking at, and we're looking more deeper now at the quality of life that the city offers people. So in terms of real estate, we've seen phenomenal growth in the last few years. Last year, we had 761 billion dirhams of transactions. This is the largest in the history of Dubai real estate market. And if you look at who's coming to Dubai, to start with, there are 200 nationalities of investors, 10,000 new investors on a monthly basis investing in Dubai, buying a home in Dubai. So this actually put a lot of pressure on us as a real estate regulator. We want to make sure that their experience, their journey is smooth. And that's where the technology comes in. This is where my department comes in. So I head policies and innovation and land department. And this is the department that deals with real estate policies, but at the same time, innovation when it comes to customer journey, when it comes to anything related to proptech, but also our proptech definition is beyond transaction and platforms. We look at even technologies that makes quality of life better in Dubai. How do we create the best built environment for people? How do we make sure that the real estate infrastructure supports the city economic agenda, the growth agenda, and so on? So in terms of what is the focus, as you know, we have a strategy 2033, and the focus is we want to be the first choice for people. And how to become first choice, we have a lot of verticals, but affordability is there. Technology, and here where maybe we spend more time in terms of technology, we talk about here transparency, but also we talk about data, commercialization, monetization. We talk about how do we, the project that you're aware of, the real estate tokenization, now we have a project that focuses on tokenizing Dubai real estate market. How do we democratize real estate investment? How do we give opportunities for investors from all over the world to own a piece of Dubai? So this is all part of a strategy, a plan. So we're not doing it randomly. Everything, every piece of work we do, it helps to achieve an economic agenda or social agenda or even a health agenda, which can go under a social agenda.
Thank you very much for that. So thank you for touching on the strategy as well. Actually, that was going to be my next question is, look, we hear, I think Dubai Health has been operating in stealth in a lot of the great initiatives that they're building. So I'd love to hear from Scott as well. What is your overarching strategy for innovation? Today we have incredible investors with us and incredible founders, and they'd love to learn what does Dubai Health imagine innovation looks like, and how can they actually tap into it? What's the overall strategy, and what does that mean for the investors and startups sat in the room?
Yeah, so maybe.
Sorry, loaded question.
Yeah. So maybe going back to those kind of four kind of verticals, or those four sort of pillars of our strategy. I guess one of those kind of key objectives is about being part of an R&D and innovation ecosystem. So I think that kind of signals that we very much don't see ourselves working in complete isolation. And certainly personally, my experience of working elsewhere is that no one organization is going to fix some of these huge challenges or see some of these huge opportunities that lie ahead of us. So we very much see ourselves as part of that ecosystem. I guess then the question is, how do we fit into that kind of ecosystem? Some of the work we've done is to say, well, why here? Why us? We've heard about these series of different, spikes or spires elsewhere in the world. So what's the compelling kind of narrative or proposition here? So I think some of it lies in what I've said already. How can we act seamlessly and in a more integrated way to stimulate more R&D work in the region? How can we attract inward investment into the region? And some of that lies in that, as I say, that integrated approach. I think some of it lies in that kind of ease of decision making, or the sort of joined up approach, I guess, in terms of some of our our decision making. I think some of that lies in the data that we hold and the patients that we interact with. We heard earlier on, a lot of companies want to validate their work somehow, validate the market somehow, understand the market somehow, work with clinicians, hear from patients, etc. So I think we can certainly help in that coordination piece internally, and we can help in terms of helping companies either through clinical trials or through validation studies, etc., kind of gain the knowledge and the insights that they need. And we are launching very soon a new innovation center, which will act as that kind of physical space that comes together. And already we have a pipeline of maybe 15, 20 projects that are coming through that center with the private sector. So some of it is about how we can work externally, and then some of it is about how can we build our own IP, how can we build our own internal kind of ventures and sort of nurture those ideas. So we have been investing heavily in terms of research infrastructure, genomics, in biobanking, in protein engineering facilities, etc. Different, kind of high quality scientific expertise, and I think that's a really, really important part of any ecosystem. You need that kind of bedrock of good higher education, good quality workforce, good quality R&D taking place, so that you can then build upon. Then it's about how can we take those ideas through from very early stage in laboratories right the way through to a kind of bedside, I guess, bench to bedside kind of approach, and that will take a lot of people working with us on that journey. We can only go so far as a sort of public entity and as a kind of healthcare provider. So that's where working with the likes of the foundation, etc., has been fantastic for us in linking in with grant funding, private private partnerships, venture capital, etc., and knitting that all together. And I think there's a way to go still on that journey for those very early university-based kind of ideas and ventures, but already that I think is something which we're committed to at the start of our our journey rather than an afterthought in, in 10 or 15 years time. It's, it's happening now and it's part of our thinking at the moment.
Amazing. And I think Anulika touched on this when she was here. Anulika, Jeff, and Fadi, which is infrastructure. So today you're focused on building the infrastructure, making sure you have all the right tools and the right partnerships and so on. Then we can find a way to kind of accelerate. So if we think about the elements that you have access to hospitals and clinics, university, endowment, the lab, and patient data. And now you're building the infrastructure for startups to start from a very early on, which is like fundamental research, all the way potentially clinical trials and commercialization. So you're still at the initial stage, focusing on that kind of fundamental research and building it as we go.
I think that's part of the strategy, of course. Yes, we're an academic health system. So research, we're making sure that our clinicians are engaged in research, making sure that the sort of clear unmet needs are identified is very much part of what we do, as well as making sure that there's space for that real kind of blue sky, really kind of disruptive thinking that can only really take place in those environments that kind of universities house, I guess. So that's part of it. But there's also a big part of it is how can we work with the private sector? How can we work with new companies, new ventures? How can we stimulate maybe more R&D intensity in some of the bigger, kind of health, life sciences and technology companies here in the region, and shift some of the dial, shift some of the conversation from, the importance of, transactional activities, I guess, that will always take place, but also say, actually, look, we want to help develop our workforce, develop the talent pipeline. We want to engage in R&D activities. So that has been an important part of our thinking as well, is how can we do the fundamental stuff, do the kind of highly disruptive, high risk, research in the university context, but how can we also hear what the market is doing, and how can we be part of that kind of equation, I guess, of helping them understand if the need is clear, helping them validate what they're thinking, helping them generate the data, access the data that they might need to help them make that next part of the journey.
Very cool. Thank you for that. Dr. Mahmoud, what's the total number of transactions last year?
761 billion dirhams.
MashaAllah, that's incredible.
So don't calculate the 4% DLD fees.
No, that's actually exactly what everyone's thinking about. There's a lot of money that's being made. So what are you doing with that money? How are you actually using that money to drive innovation, right? So when you talk about investor experience or customer experience or resident experience, what does that mean to you? And how does an innovation play a role in shaping that? Because we hear about over the past year and a half, we've seen a massive transformation within DLD, and we're seeing a lot of great initiatives, whether it's REIS, the tokenization project. There's a lot of really interesting things that are happening, and even the proptech event, right? So each one of these are extremely massive on their own, right? But would love to hear from you, what's the overarching strategy for DLD for innovation?
Well, in last May, about a year from today, we launched something called Real Estate Evolution Space. This is our innovation strategy. And the strategy aims at positioning Dubai as a leader in proptech, attract proptech companies, and proptech definition, we talked about it. So anything that relates to the built environment. But at the same time, we put our investors at the core of what we do. So we have, as I said, we have 10,000 new investors investing in Dubai on a monthly basis. About 40% of our investors are non-residents. So how do we make sure that while they're staying in their home countries, they can manage their properties, they can have transparent information? So this is a big part of what we're doing. So we're focusing a lot on products that makes the journey of investor easier. So one of these products is how they can transact without being present. Another one is related to the rental, property management. Tokenization is one more, which aims at giving people internationally an opportunity to invest in the real estate market, get to benefit from one of the highest rental yields internationally. So, but at the same time, part of REIS is we want to focus on data. So we think that data is important for decision making. for developers, for investors, for brokers, for all the stakeholders. And that's why we've been investing a lot on our data. And all the data that you see recently, we've been telling people about is from Dubai Land Department, a new platform. So we know the behavior of investors. We have data from 1961. So we know every single nationality, where they invest, what they invest. Are they tenants? Are they landlord? What's the turning point from tenants into the landlord? What's the demographics? But at the same time, such data is not only for our decision making, but it's for also developers and brokers and other stakeholders to make the right decisions. At the same time, we focus also on buildings. As I told you, one of our mandate is we want to reduce the service charge. This is one of the biggest challenges that investors are facing. So from the customer journey, we know that service charge is something that eats from the return. So we have a project on looking for technology solution when it comes to energy efficiency. So how do we reduce the consumption of energy? Because 50% of service charge is utilities and energy. So we're looking for that. And this is for anyone who's here and part of anything from what I talked about in terms of technology in proptech, technology in construction tech, technology in energy efficiency, sustainability, we partner with. So REIS is not just membership. We partner with these companies. We open doors for them. We share our data with them for free for the first year. We also work on policies. As you know, the department that I'm heading is policies and innovation. And in Dubai, we come from, His Highness always say, we don't worship laws and regulations and policies. We make sure that these are put to make people's life easier and happier. So whatever policy needs to change, we will change. Whatever law needs to change to make Dubai more innovative at the end of the day with a value creation for people, we will do. And that's this is what the mandate we have. As Highness Sheikh Hamdan always say, don't be afraid from disrupting. Disrupt the industry, disrupt the real estate, and he's supportive of all government entities. Health is part of it as well. So the REIS now is going also into evolution because, as you know, we're working on different initiatives. One is with DFDF on something related to funding innovation and funding real estate innovation, homegrown innovation, but also attracting international one as well. We're working also on an incubator, accelerator for the industry to make sure that the government will partner with these companies, will open doors for them, will make sure that they thrive and they grow. And at the end of the day, this will reflect on the journey of investor, journey of tenant, journey of property manager, and so on. We'll make our industry more efficient, more effective. We will reach our target of 1 trillion dirham by the year of 2033. We'll reach our target by increasing the home ownership from 30% to 40%. All these are agendas, part of a strategy we're working on, and we welcome any innovation that helps with all these stuff.
That's incredible. Sounds like a massive vision.
Yeah.
And we are working on something incredible related to funding, hopefully within PropTech. And what's quite unique about PropTech, if you look at just the total, I'm sure Philip will agree with me on this from Magnet. If we look at the total number of PropTech startups we have in our ecosystem, the total number of PropTech startups that we have registered are
138.
138, and a big portion of that was brought into our ecosystem over the past year and a half. But if you look at the total number of unicorns that were created from PropTech within our ecosystem, we actually have 3. So Property Finder, Dubizzle, and Biyut. So with a small, tiny base, we're able to create a massive outcomes. So if we organize ourselves properly and we're able to bring in the best-in-class founders and support the best-in-class founders here into our ecosystem, give them access to everything you spoke of, which is regulation, clear regulatory framework, funding, mentorship, access to developers, and access to talent. I think the sky's the limit.
Exactly.
What's your ambition? What do you want to do in the next couple of years?
Well,
So
this is my retirement work. This is my retirement project, to tell you the truth. So, as you know, Mahmoud, we always say in Dubai, as a government, we always focus on the ecosystem. We don't want to be so much involved with the system. We want to make sure we build the right infrastructure for people to innovate. And that's why we always say we don't chase butterflies. We build our garden. We make sure it's green, it's beautiful, so butterflies will come. So this is exactly what we do. We focus on data, sharing, we focus on regulation, we focus on funding them, but also promoting Dubai internationally to technology companies, working with a few VCs now, trying to bring some of them to Dubai, launching very soon a hub for proptech. So as much as there's a focus on fintech, now there is so much focus in the government on proptech. So the government is very supportive, from His Highness Sheikh Mohammed, Sheikh Hamdan, Sheikh Maktoum. They all are pushing for the proptech agenda, especially tokenization project. We have very important focus on it because we want it to be successful, because we know that so much can be built on it. The Dubai real estate market will be on blockchain, so much of data, transparency, sharing, commercial value, win-win for everyone.
Amazing. Thank you for that.
Thank you.
Scott, you mentioned data, and I think for everyone in health is a massive space, right? So you have everything related to life sciences, medical devices, digital health. It's a massive space, and a lot of it requires data. So when you say we have patient data, how accessible is this data for founders and investors and their portfolio companies?
Yeah, so obviously in highly regulated environments, you have to be extremely careful. So I mean, it's key obviously that the data is anonymized, etc., and de-identified. You can't just give patient data kind of freely accessible in that sense. But you can create what we call kind of trusted research environments and spaces where that data can be accessed and controlled and in a kind of in an anonymized way, I guess ultimately. So those are some of the things which we're putting in place to ensure that we can manage that. We also have very, very clear ethical processes, which I think we are doing a lot to try to streamline and to sort of take some of the sort of multiple approvals and barriers out of the way, because increasingly I find in health that actually time is a big issue. Time is cost, is money, is problematic, etc. So the more we can take kind of those kind of burdens out of the system, the easier it is. So I think trusted research environments is a critical part of our data infrastructure, but which allows easy access. Kind of clear ethical approvals, clear consent in terms of how that data can be used is very important upstream, and we can now do that in weeks rather than months or years in some other parts of the world. So those are two ways, I guess, in which we're trying to do that. And then we've got a huge project underway over the next kind of 12 to 18 months to put a data platform in place across all of our clinical data repositories, I guess, to bring that all together into one layer that we can then utilize both for research but also for our services to patients as well. So I think a lot is already happened and a lot is happening at the moment in that space as well, because we see that as being critical to the value proposition, I guess, moving forwards.
I see time is running out. However, I do have a question also based on what Anulik has said. I'd love to understand, you were part of the UK health ecosystem, and would love to get your thoughts about the NHS program that Anulik had touched on. How do you think, would it be possible to implement similar infrastructure within our ecosystem, seeing that it was impactful?
Yeah, I don't know the exact details of all of this, all the schemes that were mentioned, but so in general, in places like the UK, you're building on decades and decades of substantial R&D funding at the kind of baseline level, and even Singapore invests 5 billion Sing dollars every year just in R&D work, and it's a very, very small kind of place. So the kind of backing of research funding is an absolute kind of core. You can't go straight to later stage funding or late TRL funding and forget the fact that it's built on something that underpins all of that. So I guess that's one of the key things to be aware of. The NHS has done a lot again, so they carved a lot of the health budget out into R&D focus budget that is controlled by the Department of Health, not the kind of UK funding bodies that you would traditionally see, and that is to try, I guess, to cut the gap. We have an opportunity here, I think, in terms of what Dubai Health is doing, to actually make that integration of sort of clinical need and what universities are producing in terms of new knowledge and new ideas much more streamlined and much more integrated than it is in the UK. In terms of those particular schemes, yeah. So in short, you want to make sure that your clinicians have time, time away from treating their patients to focus on the research activities. Now that can be a bit of a sort of trade-off at times, but if you believe that those people are best placed to understand the needs, to build the ideas up, and to ultimately create new ventures out of those, either license them off or spin them off, etc. Those people need time and space to focus. So a lot of money's gone into buying time and buying clinical, time and expertise on leading and becoming entrepreneurs. The other piece is about these kind of ways to kind of access the procurement systems. Procurement systems, they generally are pretty clunky, pretty difficult to engage with, and they go to the same sorts of companies that have got the scale to do it. So what you're trying to do is to put funding schemes in that can allow new ventures to enter into that system of procurement and to take some of the risk away from the NHS or the providers that are sort of buying that. So those, I think, were the sorts of ideas that were being talked about earlier, and I would love to see them come into the system here in Dubai if they're not already there. I mean, in other sectors, but they come as part of a series of different types of funding, and you can't just put everything into one piece. You've got to piece that together, and crucially, you've got to get the handoffs right in between those different parts of the funding system. Otherwise, things will just drop off out the other end. But
and the stars need to align, I guess. I think everyone has their own objectives, and the stars kind of have to align, and we need to have this infrastructure in place.
Yeah. But it's back to that point of ecosystem. If you have structured ecosystems, also, kind of informality in ecosystems, I think is really important as well. Just having good social connections, good social connectivity, is critically important as well in making sure that those gaps don't sort of fall, things don't fall through the gaps on that journey. I guess it takes a village. Yeah.
100%. So one thing so our colleagues at DFF, they were recently mandated with two incredible initiatives, I think, that add to the work we're doing together. I think, so they've been mandated with a sandbox, a regulatory sandbox, for us to be able to change regulation, and R&D, an R&D fund, essentially. And my colleagues are both working very closely with them to kind of make sure that they're under the same, for each of these sectors, they're being utilized in the best way for us to create massive outcomes. So I think, thank you guys for your time today. And I think one thing that's super clear to me is Dubai is not waiting for the future to come. It's building it. Building it. Every one of us plays a part in this. We are a community. It does take a village. And all of us have to work together cohesively to make sure that we are creative massive outcomes. We have some phenomenal founders here in this room that want to create billion-dollar companies. So we do have to align the stars to get them there, and we have a lot of great investors as well that have invested in regulated sectors, and in your sector specifically. The more we organize ourselves and we make sure we align the stars to increase the probability of systematically creating massive outcomes, the better it will be for us all. So thank you all for coming, and thank you for the great session. Truly appreciate it. Thank you.
Thank you very much.